I apologize for they haven't discovered internet yet. I didn't, the learning experience. Okay, thank goodness. I did that in college. Like I would hear people talking about their majors and I had to write them. Kids are always good. Students are great. My favorite is owl students. We had a dog in our library last month. The manager was now every time there's a bug, I'm like, see, it's less than that. See, we're I imagine like I can't imagine the level of burnout that you get working at IMU in the information technology. Yeah. I was wondering why you could we had a people come into our library with their like they're actually like paying yeah, library for sure. Not and I just yeah. And then she wanted to get rid of my that was great. And she just Yes. And then the other they like me. Well,
You want everything. It's worth it. Yeah. Oh, the glitter does not like you. Wow. So yeah, prefer tea.
where are you from? I know they don't have like
Yeah, it was.
I know I had you know. Well, you look great on the screen. The camera looks. I mean, I don't think I did. But I discovered yesterday that trying to email from it.
See, now you need to turn that way a little bit so you get the chicken.
Yeah.
You got him? How do we turn this on? Oh, there we go. Yeah, it was at 9 o'clock. Good morning, everybody. We're about to start for the morning. Tonight there's a meetup at a local restaurant, and Jill knows the information about that.
So tonight at 6, we're meeting at the Gold Dust, which is downtown on Union. Address is 217, so it's less than half a mile away from here. And you had the chance to sign up, but if you didn't and you still would like to come, just still show up because they can squeeze more chairs in. We'll be on the back patio, so it'll be full menu. You can just order whatever you'd like, drinks and food off the menu. So that's it.
Can they manage separate checks?
I let them know.
That would be awesome.
And Lizette has a plan for the group picture. We were thinking at the first long break. So there's a session here at 8:30 and one in the other room at 8:30. And then two at 9:30, one here, one in the other room. And then there's a long break from like 10:20 to 10:45. And we figured then we would go and do the group picture. Where are we going to do that, Lizette? Just in front of the building. So we'll do that about when those sessions end at 10:20. And then this morning we've got how to be an effective member of an organization like Koha-US right here in this room with Robin Hastings. And then enabling Elasticsearch. That's going to be in the other room. That'll be Micah, Kennedy, Stephen, Zach, Clemens, and Andrew. I don't know how to say your last name, Andrew. Bursty Henry. Okay. So that'll be in the other room and in just a couple of moments. So good morning, everybody. It's nice to see everybody. So. I don't have to teach you how this goes.
No, I think I got it under control.
I'm going to leave this down here.
Okay.
So that we have it over there. Well, you know how to clear a room,
I
Robin.
guess so. Better hurry up, they're gonna run out of soup. I'd probably be in there too. Yeah, up here. All right. Well, I'm showing that it's, okay, there we go. I'm showing that it's after 8, so I'll go ahead and get started. My name is Robin Hastings. I'm the Library Services Consultant for the Northeast Kansas Library System in lovely Lawrence, Kansas. And one of the jobs that I do is board training. And this year we were working on how to run effective board meetings. And it occurred to me that we don't get training for this in our professional associations hardly ever. So we're going to talk today about how to be an effective board member or committee member or just organization member in general. So we're going to start out with the exciting Robert's Rules of Order. I promise we will not spend a lot of time there. We're going to talk about agendas, how to take minutes, action items, how to how to manage your time so that you can get stuff done when you're tasked with stuff to do in your organization. And then we're going to finish off with running effective meetings, how to make meetings work. So, like I said, we're going to start off with Robert's Rules of Order, which is just a parliamentary framework for meetings. It's a way to make meetings with a structure, and this is the structure that people have used for quite some time. There is, at the very end of this presentation, there's a link to a Dropbox that has this infographic that I've split up, as well as all the other resources that I grabbed. But Robert's Rules of Order basically just tell people how to run a meeting. I don't know if you've ever seen the book that Robert's Rules of Order are printed on, but it's thick. Every single possible situation that can come up during a meeting of an organization is covered by Robert's Rules of Order, and it talks about how to do an agenda and who has permission to talk. Who has permission to talk, how to speak, so that everybody's not talking over each other. So there's official ways to do things, how to vote, and then how to consider items that are being voted on. And so this, like I said, this whole infographic is available in the Dropbox, because I'm going through this kind of quickly. But like I said, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on Robert's Rules of Order, other than to say also in the Dropbox is a document from the Illinois 4-H Club that has how to run a small organization meeting using Robert's Rules of Order in it's a 3-4 page document, basically. It's a much smaller list of rules, but that has been for small organizations that don't need the full parliamentary experience. 4-H folks have whittled it down to something that is useful and usable for your group. So just a quick introduction to Robert's Rules of Order. I told you I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, though, is the agenda. And the agenda is probably one of the more important pieces of making sure that you are staying on track, getting things that you need to get done for the organization in a efficient manner. This is kind of a sample agenda. Basically, what I wanted to point out is every agenda should have the date when the meeting starts and when you hope it to end, where it is being held. If there's an online option, that link should be up there in the header. This one doesn't have an online option, but this is kind of each thing that you're going to talk about is broken out here. There is another version that we use for board meetings in Kansas. We suggested that I really like, because as you've got the agenda, each action item, each thing that you have to vote on, you can mark down on your agenda who made the motion, who seconded, and what the vote was. And for people who have to take minutes, this is invaluable. So for each agenda item that needs to be voted on, it has, so this is using a consent agenda, which is a way to make things quicker if you want to just have a bunch of things that you vote on all together. You can do the consent agenda, and in this case, it's past meeting minutes, the reports for expenses, the bills, and then the committee reports, all of which were passed out to the organization members before the meeting, and hopefully they read before the meeting, and then is voted on all together. Just a way to speed things up and make meetings a little less lengthy. So this kind of agenda, and again, you've got all of your information up on the top, time, date, location, and then you've got the role, or the roll call of who might be there, and then whether or not you've got a quorum. And for organizations like Koha-US, I'm not sure, is the quorum officially in the bylaws? I think we did. Yeah, there's a quorum in the bylaws for the board, but your committee meetings aren't necessarily going to need that. And this has an example of an executive session. Again, your committee meetings and most of your board meetings, even here, are not going to require that. But again, everything has a motion, second, and whether or not it passed right there on the agenda. This is a copy of this in Word format is also in that Dropbox. So if you want to grab it and make use of it for your committee meetings, it is available. So the agenda, kind of as a review, it should address all of your location information, the role, minutes from last meeting and their approval, reports as they are submitted, old business, new business, and the close of the meeting. All of that should be laid out on the agenda so that when the meeting starts, everybody knows what's going to be discussed and they have an idea of what's going on. I think meetings are always better when you have snacks. So that's my big tip right there for making a meeting effective, making people wanting to come to your meetings. I know when I do trainings, I quite often have, I bought a big bag of those peppermint twist mints and was at a training and nobody was talking. And I said, so, who here did something or other? And I held up a mint and everybody started talking. They were literally less than a penny a mint and people were just falling all over themselves to get one. So food makes people want to participate. It makes them want to show up. So that's my middle of the session tip there for you. Connected with the agenda, this is just mostly for the secretaries of your committees or your board, but I know there have been times when the secretary can't show up and someone else is roped into taking minutes. And one of the things that most people, the first thing they think is, I have no idea how to take minutes. So your minutes, if you use an agenda like the one I pointed out before with the motions and the roll call and all that, taking minutes is pretty easy. What you're doing when you're taking minutes is not writing down verbatim what's happening in the meeting, word for word. You're writing down a summary of the actions taken. You don't even have to really summarize the discussion. You can say there was a discussion, but you don't have to summarize, and Bob said this, and then Susan said you're stupid, and it's not like that. You don't have to write all that down, and sometimes it's best if you don't. But you do need to write down what decisions were made, who made the motion, who seconded, how it passed, the vote, totals, and all that. And you should make sure that you are jotting down corrections, additions, actions taken. I've got that one highlighted because we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Writing that down is vital to keeping the business of the committee moving forward. Because if you don't know what actions you're supposed to do, it's hard to, when you show up to the next meeting, nothing has happened, right? So next steps, items to be held over, business, both new and old, when the next meeting is, and the time of adjournment. All that should be in your minutes as you type them up for your board or committee organization meeting. Some helpful tips for the minutes. Use a template like the one I gave you. Check off attendees as they arrive. Introductions are good, but once you get going, you pretty much know who people are. Record things as they occur so that you're writing them down when they're fresh in your memory. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification. If you're taking a minute and somebody speaks to that, or you've got your head down writing and somebody says something and you can't identify who it was that seconded that motion, don't be afraid to say, wait a minute, who just did that? So that you've got everything properly recorded. So make your notes. Again, it does not have to be verbatim recording. And maintain the same verb tense. Everything's happening either present or in the past. That's just a general writing tip, I guess. Some of the things that people not do that they should is documenting a quorum. If you're not sure whether or not you had a quorum, those votes that you took may or may not be official. So you need to document that there were enough people in the meeting to make a quorum, to make everything official. You want clear descriptions of what happened. Include information that could harm the board in a legal sense. Do not include information that could harm the board. Just kind of make sure that you're covering all your bases and you're covering the legalities. And that's going to change from, that's probably definitely more for an official board as opposed to a committee, but, make sure you include everything that's necessary. Don't wait forever. Try and get the meeting minutes written up soon and get them out so that people can let you know if you missed something or misprinted something. Always keep track of your minutes. Make sure that they're filed promptly, they're approved at the next meeting, they're filed promptly, and if they need to be signed or whatever, we get that done. Okay, so we've had our meeting. We had a good agenda. Everything went smoothly. You've got the meeting minutes all written out and ready to go. And there are action items that everybody has to, or at least some of the committee members have to undertake before the next meeting. So one of the things that is important to keep the organization moving forward is that people do what they're committed to do, whether you're voluntold or volunteer, whichever it is. So there are, I've been voluntold at times too, yeah. There are several ways to keep track of your tasks. I'm pretty sure, the first one here is Trello, that's based on Kanban. The second one is bottom is Asana, and that is more of a project management, task management kind of thing. These are options for you. Everybody thinks differently. I have tried to use Trello and Kanban with the list of things that are in process and things that are still to be waiting for stuff, and that's not how I think. So it doesn't necessarily work for me. Asana, on the other hand, with its tasks and hierarchies, that works for me. So it's nice to have a selection, try out a few different kinds until you find something that actually works. The only real tip I have for all of them is it needs to be something you trust, so you're going to look at it all the time. Because if you just dump it into Asana and then never look at Asana again, it does you no good. So if you use Evernote already all the time and you want to create a notebook for your committee and put your action items there, that's cool. Just make sure you're looking at it. Because that is if you don't trust your system, you're not going to be as efficient in getting things done. The final one, Office 365 Planner, I'm not as familiar with this because we're a Google company, not a Microsoft company, but they have quite a few task and organizational tools in Office 365. I have used Google Keep. When I used it last, I think it now allows hierarchical, like you can have but it didn't at the time, and so Asana did. And so what I like about a lot of these, especially Evernote and Asana, I'm not so sure about the other two, is that they're very integrated. You can integrate into, like Asana, you can take your Asana stuff and it makes a Gantt chart in Column Planner just automatic. It integrates. Evernote integrates everything. So those are, if you're a Google person, you can probably find a Google method to make these useful for you. So anyway, I just wanted to talk briefly about some of the options that are out there. And then along with task management is time management, which I have not done today because so time management, there are a lot of different time management theories. And again, these are just ways to make sure that you're getting your committee work done. The first one that I have over here is the processing, walking in front of the camera, sorry. The processing flow chart for the getting things done time management process. And that was based on a book, came out years ago. And it basically, this is where I get the trusted system. The idea is that you put everything into a system. You don't use your brain for things that your brain's not good at, like remembering details. You use your brain for coming up with new ideas. You use your system for remembering details. So this is everything that comes in, goes through this processing into a waiting folder or into your calendar or into a hot list of things that you need to do immediately. Some things go into someday. It's something that your organization may want to do, but you're not ready to start working on it right now. Trash is an important part of this. Got to know what to throw away, and then reference stuff. So this is kind of a way of thinking of, as you're finishing up with your meeting, all of the stuff that came out of that meeting. This is a way to process it so that at the end you have action items, you have calendar entries, you have things that are that need to be done, and you know what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. So that's a little more involved kind of time management. The Pomodoro method is a little less structured, but it's basically you just take your tasks and you start working on them. And the Pomodoro little tomato timer is what the name comes from. It's Pomodoro, it's Italian for tomato. And basically it's a way to work on something for 25 minutes, then take a break, and work on something. It has no real structure like getting things done, but it is a way to make sure you're focusing and then taking a break and focusing. And so it's another way to get things done in when you're finished with your meetings. I mentioned Kanban earlier. This is an example of the Kanban system. And the idea behind Kanban is that you have columns, and I've seen people do this on whiteboards where they'll write out their column titles, like the things that you're thinking about under analysis and the things that you're working on under development, things that have been finished that maybe you're waiting for acceptance. And then this is a example. Yours may be different. The columns are not set in stone. It's whatever makes sense to you. So in your columns, you've got Post-it notes. Is how they do it. And so they put their columns on their whiteboard, and then they put Post-it notes, and each Post-it note is a task. And so as you come back from your committee meeting, you jot down all of the tasks onto your different Post-it notes, and you plop them on your Kanban board, and they are part of your to-do system. Like I said, this is you can do this electronically with Trello. I know Microsoft bought it not too long ago. I think it's still free. Yeah. Okay. So you can use this electronically or on paper. Actually, except for I'm sure there are online electronic Pomodoro timers too. So everything I think I've shown you is both paper and electronic based. Okay. I'm trying to remember. I'm at a higher elevation than Flatland, Kansas, so I need to hydrate regularly. Finally, I wanted to talk about meetings and how to run a meeting. Most of you are going to be committee members, but hopefully after you've worked on a committee for a while, you're going to be willing to step up and take the leadership role. And one of the things that you're going to be expected to do as a leader is run the meeting of your committee or your organization if you become the president in a way that is successful. And so this is a book that we have used in Kansas. I did a book club, an electronic book club with my library directors. We read 2 chapters a week and discussed via email what we were learning, and then at the end met for lunch and talked about what we had gotten out of the book. But this just kind of goes through all of the different ways to make sure that your meetings are effective, that they, like I said, starts on time, you have a purpose, you keep the discussion on topic, you address conflict, don't be conflict averse. Things happen when people have disagreements. Knowing how to manage those disagreements effectively is important. And so, like I said, the book, starting with one of the first things the book says is make sure the meeting is necessary. If you can do it over email, do it over email. Don't have meetings that are not useful. So this, I wanted to show you that this is a option for successful meetings and is a great way to run a meeting, to learn how to run a meeting properly. Now this came from McSweeney website, which if you're familiar is a satirical website on the web. And it's how to chair an academic committee, but it came out just perfectly. I just saw it, I think it's from June, but I actually just saw it a couple weeks ago. And so I grabbed it because I thought, if anything, this is the best what not to do, satirical advice for how to chair an academic committee. Of course, those of you who work in academic settings know that these happen in meetings all the time, but you're not supposed to actually do them. So, things like don't worry about setting an agenda in advance. Just let it develop during the meeting. Don't send anything out in advance. Nobody reads it anyway. Just pass it out during the meeting. Open-ended agenda items. Just let the conversation flow. Again, all of these are don't do's, but I thought they were funny. There's a lot of them. Again, these slides are available, will be available, and then there's a Dropbox. I don't know if I've got a link to this on the Dropbox. But yeah, that's I like to call meetings early or late in the day. 8 a.m. on Monday and 4 p.m. on Friday works best. I'm sorry? Oh, yeah. Robert's rules. How retentive was this guy? He probably needs a psychoanalysis. I'm not going to say that's wrong, but oh, that reminds me, I just mentioned it. I think I've got a link somewhere. I did come across in my looking for a quick and easy way to explain Robert's rules. I did find Bob's rules of order, which are not parliamentary, but a structural meeting, a little less formal than Robert's. So I think there's a link to that again in the Dropbox. So yeah, so show up late, never coordinate anything with staff, don't take notes. That's all. You just kind of look at this and do exactly the opposite. You will have a great committee and board experience. Yeah. So again, I mentioned this is a Dropbox folder that will have my slides. I don't think they're in there now, but they will be. My slides as well as the infographics. I also have links to the infographics here, but I grabbed them as well. And then that 4-H group meeting process that I talked about. Now, what I don't have in here, and I'm debating whether or not I actually want to mention it, but we've got enough time that I feel like I have to. One of the things that we did as part of our board training this year was we did a model board skit, and of course, because we're librarians, we recorded and made it available on YouTube. So it's a 10-minute thing where we talk about, I think in the board meeting, the new business includes a tanning bed that was donated to the library, and what to do about it. There's a member of the public who wants to talk about the book on mushrooms that they wrote, how they would like to have that added to the library collection. And a challenge, a book challenge. I think I'm not sure actually if we got the book challenge in the recorded version, but in the full model, there's a book challenge, and that's always fun as we pass the book around and go. Crazy. So I'll dig up the YouTube link for that and put it on here as well, so that I think I placed the word president, and so I didn't watch much of it after it was recorded, but my only thing was, wow, I had my hair up and it was just straight up, and I was like, that's an interesting look for me. So other than the fact that I didn't check my hair before the recording started, I think it's like I said, it's for a library. It's specific for library board. I'm annoying the folks out in the library. It's specific to library boards as opposed to committees and that kind of thing, but it is entertaining, I thought so, to watch us all fumble around and try to show how the board meetings should be run. So that's what I've got for you guys. Do you have any questions? All right. Well, then you have a half an hour to run around and explore. I don't know if you guys have seen on the far wall. It's hard to see because of the thing, but they've got a First Amendment, the text of the First Amendment, and then there's a plaque right next to it talking about how important the First Amendment is. I got pictures of it and posted on Facebook yesterday because I thought it was really powerful. So, there's lots of good stuff to look at. Feel free to wander around, and feel free to come up and ask if you have questions later. Thank you.
When all of this, all of the recordings are done, we'll post them on the Koha-US website, and we'll include links to your Dropbox, Robin.
Okay.
There we go, stuff.
Do you want me to leave the meeting or keep it up for the next?
You can close it.